Hello and welcome to another episode of the Frankly Leader podcast. And hello and welcome to 2026, first of all. Here we are, another year of the podcast, and I'm very excited to be starting this podcast series with the fabulous Laura Ryan. Laura, welcome.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, I am too. And I mean, I feel like I need to prepare myself just to read your introduction because so far, yours is my favourite introduction that I've had. So for those people out there that don't know Laura, let me introduce her to you. Laura Ryan is a globally recognised expert in the building networks and driving transformational change across the agri-food sector. In 2023, she was named in the Grocer's Power List for her leadership in the meat industry. Now with a portfolio career, she leads Lavenpark, her consultancy business, helping organisations grow through strategic insight. She's an executive coach, equipping leaders to navigate change and lead with impact. And she's also, as if that wasn't enough, founder and global chair of Meat Business Women, aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Darlington born and bred, she champions women and girls to fulfil their potential and lead with confidence. Mic drop. What an introduction.
Can I go now?
You can. I mean, I don't even know where to start in all of that because there's so much in there. So much in there. Let's start from the beginning. So when you were growing up, it's one of my favourite questions this. When you were growing up, did you ever dream of being a leader?
No, is the short answer. I didn't. And if you'd asked me, I probably didn't know what it was. And apart from a political leader, I wouldn't have probably been able to articulate properly what a business leader was or did. But what I did when I was growing up, when I was a kid, I sat in the back of my dad's Vauxhall Cavalier, and he was a salesman for a packaging company. And he was a bit ahead of his time, really, because he had a car phone. So I would sit in the back of that car listening to him making business calls about packaging, about corrugated cardboard. So I didn't realise, but by osmosis from a very young age, I was learning how to network, how to negotiate, and how to have meaningful conversations and build those really important relationships. But leadership, no.
I don't think I've come across one guest yet that said, oh yeah, that was like number one on my vision board when I was 12 to become a leader. So what did you want to become? You know, what did you, when you were younger, what did you have on your kind of career vision board?
Yeah, I didn't have one, and I still joke that I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And I suppose that's the joy of having a portfolio career, because you can flex and do different things. I guess those conversations that I listened to in the back of the car, my dad used to sell a lot of packaging to Scottish and Newcastle breweries. So I always had in the back of my mind a knowledge of the alcohol industry, and I was interested in Diageo. I did one of my dissertations on an alcohol brand. So I was quite interested in that space. I went to a couple of graduate events for Diageo and Nestle and Mars, and I thought I'd probably end up with a big FMCG type career, but I didn't. My careers officer at school or at college, and I don't know if they have those anymore, but said that I would make a great careers advisor, because I just like chatting to folks, and I'm really curious and like understanding how things tick.
Yeah. Oh, that's a big, great job, actually, being a career coach. I don't know.
know.
I've not thought of that. I'm going to add it to my when I grow up list.
I know, definitely.
So tell us, in terms of leadership then, when and where was your first leadership role? Where was that and what were you doing?
Yeah, so I didn't end up in a big FMCG gig. I ended up going back to uni and doing a master's, actually. And then after that, I got a government-funded programme working for a small business that was taking on a graduate to run their marketing. They didn't have any marketing at all. And it was amazing because that gave me a grant to help my professional development. But I guess it was then that I realised, even though I wasn't managing a team, and it's that difference between leaders and managers, I was leading a business through what are your company values, what's your mission, and leading a family business, which it was amazing to get an insight into, to do something different and something, I guess, quite innovative for where they were. That business happened to be a catering butcher selling meat into restaurants and hotels, and owned some butcher shops as well. I have no background in the meat industry whatsoever and happened upon that role, which I'm forever grateful for. And as a result of that job, I won a Business Leader of Tomorrow award, and that just stepped me on to working with peers on a national and global level to get experience from something that a girl from Darlington probably wouldn't normally have, particularly I wouldn't have at school or at college. So yeah, I was very fortunate.
Oh, it's brilliant. I can see the link now to Meet Businesswomen Network. And I'm also thinking about how that experience of working in a family business as your first business, because they can be quite complex to work in, can't they? Because they've obviously got the family element and then the business element alongside. But in agri-food industry, there's a lot of family run business, isn't there?
Totally right. A lot of family run businesses of a massive scale. There's family run businesses that are turning over a couple of billion easily, probably more. So yeah, and what I learned in a family business, and that was a relatively small business, but I still use some of those skills and tools that I got. And I suppose it's that pace, it's that change, it's that trader mentality and that ability to, and what I watched and saw, it was a dad and two brothers, the ability of them to communicate so quickly, just pick up the phone, make the decision, get something done. And that was just, I've never seen anything like it. I was just like, wow, this is amazing. So yeah, I'm still a big believer of, right, if there's a challenge, if there's a problem, let's pick up the phone and have a chat rather than
Yeah,
hiding behind something. And
yeah.
I suppose those early days gave me the confidence that I'd watched it and seen it happen. And yeah, maybe I can do the same.
Yeah, that the importance of what I call adult relationships rather than technology relationships where we're sending
Totally right.
emails and WhatsApps.
Yeah.
Yeah, just have that conversation. Yeah, oh, brilliant. So, thinking more broadly about leadership, is there anything that you enjoy or love about it?
Back to earlier point that I just like chatting to people. What I like about the portfolio career I have now and being classed as a leader is the access that it gives me. I get to chat to really interesting people, and I'm really lucky that other leaders and CEOs of big PLC companies give me their time, and I love chatting to them. So it's access really. It's the ability. Meet Businesswomen held an event at the House of Lords last year. We launched a food business charter. It's the ability to think, right, we need a peer to sponsor an event at the House of Lords. Who do we know? Right, great. Let's flex our network. It's that access really. And if I don't know someone, then I probably know someone that does, or they know somebody that does. It's that
Yeah,
really excites me, and that ability to get stuff done because you've grown a network and been a leader. And it was really interesting, I suppose, reflecting on us coming to this conversation. When I worked at HDB, which is a levy board, and I worked my way up, I left the catering butcher and worked my way up in that business. And then I finished as the beef and lamb director there. It was interesting as I stepped from middle management into the director role, people that wouldn't probably answer your email or take a couple of weeks to answer your email were sharp on it. They were answering your email within
yeah,
an hour. And it's
yeah,
really notice that. Hopefully just treat everyone the same, but the hierarchy does give you access to places that you wouldn't normally have. And I'm very privileged to have that, and I very much enjoy it.
yeah. It's that the power that you get from the role, isn't it? Or the
Yeah.
brand. I often say when I left employment at Vodafone and started my own business, and it was just me, small business, and I'd been used to picking up the phone and saying, "Hello, it's Jennifer from Vodafone," and all they heard was Vodafone's on the phone, and like things would happen. And now it's like Jennifer from We Are Frankly, and they're like, "Who and who?"
Yes, you're totally right. And I suppose within that journey, there's always a crisis of confidence. You think, yeah, you're right. In your Vodafone journey, when I left AHDB, I thought, gosh, who am I? Because that was so much of me and my personality. So you're
Yeah,
right, it's building that again and
building it again.
realizing you've got all those pillars and those lessons that you've learned along the way that are critically important, and you've got the resilience to do it.
Yeah, it's an inner power rather than a role power.
Definitely,
Yeah,
yes. And it's the thing, this is all soft power. I've got
yeah,
no ability, I've got no role power whatsoever. So it's all
yeah,
relationships, and it's all,
yeah. And your passion for people comes through when you talk like loud and clear. So I'm curious if that's what you love about leading. Is there anything that's really tough for you in terms of being a leader? What's the hardest thing?
yeah, if anyone's watching that's done insights or disc, I'm very green. I'm very people. I'm low in red energy, and that's the energy to be quite succinct and straight and get stuff done very, very quickly. I like to take some time and reflect, and included in that is confrontation. I struggle with confrontation, and I've had to do a lot of that in my time. And particularly when you're talking about budget and you're talking about people, that's really challenging because you're changing lives. Not that anybody finds it easy, but I know I find it harder. The point there is stage one, to know that that's hard for you and to know that that can be challenging, and what the tools and techniques you need to use to step into that space. And I always feel, and I still have challenging conversations now, but I always feel that I've grown a little bit as a result. And I always reflect back on, I probably over prep for them, but it gets me into a position I think, yeah, I can do this well. And then afterwards I think, right, what did I learn from that then I can build on for next time? So yeah, so some leaders and a lot of leaders, as we know, have an accountancy background. I don't. I have a marketing and business background. So those people that are very numerically literate, I always find that a little bit easier because you can stay to the facts rather than feel the emotion, which is tend to where I channel my energy.
You're like a mirror to me. I'm the exact same. And finding that balance between, like, I can access my feelings much quicker than I can access my thoughts, which actually at the moment is quite a powerful thing. I'm recognizing I've often previously seen it as a weakness, but now I'm like, actually, I'm really tuned into my intuition, which means I feel and sense the room and the energy shifts, which is good data to have, particularly when working as a facilitator or a consultant. So yeah, but learning to turn the dial up on that kind of facts, data, financial, and having it in a balanced view. It's a daily challenge, I find.
It is a daily challenge, and I totally agree. And I suppose one of the things that I've done to make sure I can navigate life is find yourself a personal board, or find yourself services that can plug those gaps. So
Yeah.
for example, I've got an amazing accountant who we walk through things with and make sure projections and all the rest of it is where I want it to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just a small example.
Yeah. That's another great lesson, actually, that you don't need to be brilliant at everything, but you need to have brilliant people around you that can do everything.
Exactly
Yeah.
that. And when I sit down with leaders and leaders of CEOs of big PLC companies, when you chat to them about what makes you a brilliant leader, it's exactly that, surrounding yourself with great people. It's those people that want to hold on to it all won't be a great
Yeah.
business, but
No.
giving them the autonomy to run and fly with their departments or whatever it is they're looking after, and giving the CEO very little to have that control over and just be the front person and a hand on the tiller is fantastic.
Yeah. So you're moving us nicely into the next question, which is all about the biggest lessons learned. So, and I'm sure there's already been like half a dozen that's come out now, but is there one big lesson that kind of sticks with you that you've learned about being an effective leader?
For me, and from when I look at others, is having a strong personal board. So, and this is a group of probably 6 to 8. I know there's a lot of theory around this, but for me, it's mainly nearer the 6 number of people that are experts in various areas. Now, that could be someone that happens to be an expert in the industry that you're working in. It could be someone that's maybe not an expert, that's more of a coaching relationship that's going to challenge you. It's really interesting when you speak to great leaders, they all have a coach. They need a challenge because within the organisation, you're not going to get the challenge. People aren't going to be brave enough to challenge you. So having that external mirror look into you. So someone in that guy's either probably paid for or someone that you can ring and give you that challenge. And it's back to those days of, as I said, that when I was working with a family business, someone that you can pick the phone up in the car when you're sat on the M1 or wherever you may be and say, I've got this challenge. This is what's happening for me. What are your thoughts? And it's a two-way street. They should be picking up the phone to you and saying, this is coming down the track. What are your thoughts? And it's that next layer of the onion away from your family and friends that you have socially, and the next layer out of your professional family, really.
Yeah.
And those ones that you trust and you can trust to share quite a lot with, because your decisions are based on their feedback. And I probably have 6 or so people in that personal board, and those folks you need to be speaking to every single month. You need to be, even if it's just a 15-minute quick check-in, right? What's this? I've seen this. It might be interesting. Quick WhatsApp message, but keeping those relationships live, because the next layer out is obviously your broader network, but they're people that you might bump into at a conference, have the odd chat to, or I'll drop you an email, but it's not that drumbeat that they know what's happening, what's big for you. Who are your cheerleaders as well? And you need a bit of cheerleading in that group as well as challenge.
Yeah, definitely. And that's just made me think of a really important point. And I don't know whether you come across this, but I find it quite interesting how many senior leaders, so I'm talking board level business owner, take for granted that people underneath them will find it more challenging to be open and honest in terms of giving them feedback upwards. So I think I meet a lot of leaders who are like, well, of course I talk to my people, and of course I listen to them, and of course they're open with me. And I always go, really? Should we just break that down for a second? Because of what we spoke about before, that role power or authority power or positional power that you have when you're making those big decisions. Like, that's why I think when people go on team nights out and they have a few drinks, that's often when they start to tell their boss what they really think, because they've got a bit of the honesty juice, as my mum calls it.
You're totally right. I love it. Yeah. The honesty juice starts flowing. And it's funny, a senior woman that I work with, she, again, on my personal board, I'll ring and say, oh, what's the goss? What's happening? She's, I don't know. Nobody tells me anything anymore. You'll know more than me. And it's, you're right. It just closes down.
Yeah. Yeah. And staying mindful to that as a leader, because there are things that you can do to bridge that gap and to, learn how to do really good listening, I think is one of the things I think we take for granted.
Yeah.
But yeah. So we're going to move into an area that I'm very passionate about. So frankly, really cares about putting people and planet up alongside profit, as I know you do too. So in your conversations that you're having with other leaders, particularly around climate change, what's the hot topic at the moment? What are you hearing people talk about?
And I suppose in a wider sense, sustainability is massive, particularly for food manufacturing, but for the meat industry in particular. Sustainability is so important because there's a challenge around the long-term impact of meat production. And then there's obviously we want to be able to feed great protein to people that want to buy it. So what we've seen, I guess, is challenges around meat generally, the production, but then it gets complicated. And what I mean by that, people start talking about different areas of the planet. If you're producing in the UK, if you're producing beef in the UK, there's probably not in sheep, there's probably nothing else you can put on that ground. You're up a hill somewhere. It's the best use of that environment. If you're talking about a rainforest and that's getting taken down for beef production, then that's different. And then if you're talking about poultry, for example, you need loads of shed space to produce that poultry. Do people want that built in their backyard? Probably not. There's a lot of planning challenges at the moment around that. So I guess what my sense of it is the consumer does care, but they haven't got the bandwidth to understand all that complexity. And there's so much complexity in terms of, well, what countries is my food coming from? What production systems is it coming from? What are their long-term sustainability goals? So what I see, and it's driven very much both by the processing industry, but by retailers as well, and food service, McDonald's and others, these big players have got huge sustainability plans to make sure that what they want long-term businesses, that they can last and they can continue to regenerate where they need to. So where there's opportunity is in pre-competitive work, and some of that they are playing together, and that's great. And there's government plans around that. Could we lean in more to some of those government plans? Could the government be better in terms of having more aligned plans? Possibly. There's also a challenge where retailers will want something different. And this is really hard, where it's a competitive issue as well, because we know we'll maybe go into one retailer and they'll have this great sustainability story. Well, retailer number 2 wants a different sustainability story as well. So what you find there is then the processor base has different tiers of different things because that's what their customers want. So what I'm probably rambling on to tell you is it's highly, highly important. It's highly important, and they're measuring, they're watching, they're seeing what they can do to continue to reduce the impact on the climate of meat production across the board. My experience is there's not one business out there that's thinking, right, it doesn't really matter, because they want a long-term business. But what they know is it does have impact. So how do we minimise that impact? And it's been funny to watch the ultra-processed food movement, the meat alternatives, particularly over the last 5 years. They've, boomed and bust a little bit. And that's really around the fact that there's so many ingredients in those products, and consumers maybe don't want so many different ingredients, as we know. So there is a lean into clean protein meat, but how do we continue to produce that sustainably? It's top of mind, and you need to look at some of these PLC reports and you see how much they're investing in this for the long term. But it's tricky when it can be a bit of a competitive issue as well.
Yeah, it's complex for businesses, it's complex for leaders, complex for consumers. It's not, I think that's like, it's a change movement, but it's not a simple change movement, is it? It's complex.
Really complex. And even just simple things like if you're producing sheep meat in Australia, you'd be running a different system of measuring that impact as opposed to if you're producing it here. So if you happen to be a UK retailer and you're buying from both, how do you then
compare?
Extrapolate the two? Yeah. So it's really, really complex. And these, both at retail and at processor level, have big teams working on this. So I suppose from a generic level, it's really interesting to see this isn't just been greenwashed. It's been taken seriously. But it's always tricky when there's vested interests, because each of these countries have different farming unions and they all want to say, well, we're best. And actually then the consumer just switches off to all of this. So the more that we can play together, the better.
Yeah. And in terms of leaders specifically, what do you think are the big barriers at the minute to them doing more? What do you think are the things that are getting in the way of making it easier to navigate that complexity?
I suppose governments, and not just the UK government, I would probably say more broadly, is a challenge for them. Food production in the UK, some food manufacturers would say, isn't as important as it should be. Say, for example, in Ireland, it's a lot more of a factor of GDP than it is in the UK. So they would like more access to government, more access to skilled workers. So I think government and government understanding of the sector could continue to be more improved. And it's challenging because government ministers change. So that's hard. There's not a, right, this is the plan and this is what we should be doing and everyone falling behind it. It can sometimes be left to industry to sort it out themselves.
Yeah, that's challenging. So with all that in mind, when you're thinking about the future that's coming, what are the kind of qualities and skills that you think leaders need to have in their toolkit that they can prioritise, that will keep those skills that will keep them future-proofed?
Yeah, and I think particularly for our industry in terms of food manufacturing, and we see some great evidence of it, is to be open and transparent, and putting a face to our industry is really important. Otherwise, if we're just a faceless industry, no one can understand what we're about. And I think that is part of great clear communication. And we see some brilliant examples of it. And I think being a great, clear communicator is going to be more important as the digital age, as we know, and the people's attention spans are so short. To be able to get a message across in a succinct and compassionate way is really important. Something you've already mentioned about is being a great listener. Not being able to listen and not being curious is a challenge because you're going to miss opportunities. So I think that's again something that I see from great people and something we need more and more, and compassion as part of that, really. And then not surrounding yourself just with people at the same as you, that old group thing.
Yeah,
I think will be even more of a challenge. Having leaders that are surrounded by people that are prepared to challenge in a proactive way is going to be more and more important as we have more and more diversity from our consumers right across the world. We're not a homogenous group, so you can't just serve a homogenous group.
Yeah, I mean, we have to reflect that diversity in societies within the way that we lead and make decisions.
Exactly that. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. So, final question. If you could do any job in the world, what would it be?
I know it's a tricky one, this, because I don't think there's another one I'd want. I feel like I'm lucky enough that I've built it and I've created what I want. So for me, stepping out of a corporate career sort of 7 years ago and then leaning into growing meat business women and my executive coaching work, which I'm really enjoying and really loving, and then consultancy with the industry, it's just great to have that mix so I can plug in and meet new people, do different things, and then nose to the grindstone on projects as well. So yeah, I think that there's nothing else that I've thinking that would be amazing, because otherwise I would have probably gone for it.
Yeah, how lovely. So you don't need a career coach.
I know, I probably don't. The career coach will get frustrated with me because I keep saying, I still don't know what I want to be.
That's like me. I absolutely love the job I'm doing when I get to do the work. But I'm constantly going, what do I want to do when I grow up? And I'm like, oh, I'm already doing it.
I know. And I suppose that's a bit of people talk about fake it till you make it. I suppose it's a bit of that, isn't it? Just keep on trucking, it'll be fine.
Yeah. And showing up authentically and being willing to be in the messiness of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, Laura, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Your answers have been they've been insightful, they've been impactful, they've been succinct. I've loved it, and I think I'm really excited to put this out because I think there's so much juicy stuff in there to get people thinking about sustainability and planet, which I think, for me it's really important that we keep that a priority in terms of our conversations at work. So thank you so much for all the time.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
See you later. Bye.
bye. Thank you.